Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to our Saturday morning Bible study class on this beautiful day in New Jersey. We're so glad you could join us. We're recording today from the North Star Cottage, and our moderator is Thomas.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. So we'll start out with our poem. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away, said he, who said what others could not say. Of all they talked and did so fruitlessly, yet he who spoke was crucified. The truth he taught was met with mocking jeers, but still his words are undenied. That truth lives on through all these many years. What fearless confidence had he? He knew that truth could never be disproved, that it would stand eternally, although all other things might be removed. So this is poem number 167 from Daily Angels, Volume 1 by Max Dunaway.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Good old Max Dunaway.
I couldn't help but read this poem with a big smile on my face because although it does say that his words will always be with us, but it also said that there's some things that will be removed. And even though those who would try to protect them and preserve them and keep them or whatever, there's another force at play here, and it's a divine one that removes things that need to be removed. So it made me smile.
That's why we should never fear the process of removing things that need to be removed. It's always better for everybody, including those who might cling to those things for a while.
Thinking back on my life, there were times when I clung to different relationships and stuff, and I am so happy now they're all gone. So.
Yeah, good point. Go ahead, Karen.
When I read that last verse, I thought of the quote that was in the Watch on Thursday, where Mrs. Eddy says, "To affirm anything is to assert its possibility, and that when you affirm that which is true, although human reasoning and sight may say it is not true at all, you will bring it to pass. Why? Because it is already the fact." I love that quote, and that's what came to me when I read that last verse.
Thank you.
That's why it'll never pass away.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's wonderful.
This promise of his word shall never pass away is very, very comforting. It gives everyone great hope, I feel.
Yes.
What inspires me is the words, though empires fall, the Lord shall reign forever. That's what comes to me. Beautiful poem.
Thank you.
I've been doing a lot of thinking about artificial intelligence, and to me, the word encompasses everything, and it's not reliant on electricity, programs, gadgets, even different languages that people make up to express themselves. It's not dependent on any of those things, and that's why it continues.
Thank you.
Benjamin's.
Carrie sent me some beautiful things today. These are her contributions, which I'll share. But they were particularly beautiful. The first one is an Irving Tomlinson article, "The Permanence of Truth." Our great master gave scant heed to ephemeral conditions, but dwelt entirely upon the unchanging love of God and the abiding presence of truth. He said, "Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my word shall not pass away." He placed before us the necessity of fixing our thought upon that which is permanent and abiding, if we would enjoy health and peace, saying, "If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you." We are helped to see that all which is of God's is eternal by remembering the facts about the science of numbers. The multiplication table is the same now as it always has been and always will be. 2 times 2 never make 5. So truth understood erases wrong beliefs and methods. In the science of mathematics, all is permanent, and this is also true in the science of music, for the harmonies which there prevail are abiding. In Science and Health, we read, "Erase the figures which express number, silence the tones of music, and yet the producing, governing, divine principle lives on." Page 81. In nature, the permanence of beauty, which is but another expression of truth, is ever manifested. The rainbow is unchanging in its beautiful curve and radiant color. The song of the birds is perpetually joy-begetting and heart-inspiring. I just thought that was beautiful, all the permanent things of God that we enjoy every day and are unchanging. It's from Carrie.
And of course, there are those who doubt that we could ever know the truth. Some people even talk about a personal truth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is an incorrect use of the word truth. And just to comment on the term artificial intelligence is really a non sequitur, isn't it? Because there's
Oxymoron.
exactly there's no such thing as artificial intelligence. When you realize intelligence is the truth, intelligence is the active. Is just the action of divine mind, which always reflects the truth, and there's nothing artificial about it at all. So all these things will pass away except for the truth. And thank God that Jesus and Mary Baker Eddy and a few other people have been able to express the truth for us. And we can too.
Mhm.
And the interesting truth is not entirely dependent on language as we tend to use it. Language is a helpful tool, of course, but think about Jesus, who the language there was an ancient version of Aramaic and was a decaying language, and yet he spoke what was true with the confidence of knowing that whatever language is going to be used, the ultimate truth will be preserved, and that we can indeed know it and share it, of course.
Yeah, and then it makes me wonder what, why we bother with things that are so temporal. You read about, almost every article in a magazine is not anything of endurance usually. So that's why we have such treasures in our books, Science and Health, the Bible, prose works, and all the early workers. They are permanent.
They don't worship personality.
He said nothing like that. What she says in page 110 of Christian Science, Science and Health.
Yeah.
Nothing shall nothing will do anything to what has been written, the truth. Nothing can touch it.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe a little bit about Max Dunaway. Not that I know much about him, but he wrote poems that were published in the Christian Science Journal and the Christian Science Sentinel. There's a CD by Doris White Evans, the poems of Max Dunaway. Plainfield Church has published his poems. There's on the website a whole bunch of his poems. So does anybody want to comment that knows more about Max Dunaway? Let me say one more thing is Jeremy added the link to the book in archives.org, so you can actually look online for a whole book of his poems.
Well, again, I mentioned this once before, but Carrie had found a couple of newspaper articles about him. It is hard to find anything about him. He's from Oregon. He married someone from Idaho. This was a sweet little description of their wedding. In Idaho, she wore a dress of petunia color and carried a white Bible with gardenias or something, and it was very sweet. And in one of the books, there's a poem called My Margie, and that's about her. Her name was Margaret. And yeah, he spanned the 40s, 50s, 60s. And she passed on rather early. He lived I believe, into the 70s. And yes, was very, very beloved because those poems are just one after the next. They're so beautiful, beautiful. I mean, my goodness, his heart speaks. But that's about all that we know about him, or I know about him. And those are just from a couple of newspaper articles that Carrie found.
Well, his poems speak to what he was or what he has been. So.
Yeah, that shows his pure, beautiful heart.
Well, this is the reason why people should join in on the Plainfield Church, because I don't think that the Boston Church really recognizes him anymore, right? So we have published a lot of his poems.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. In our magazines, they're full of Max Dunaway poems, and rightfully so. And before we get into the topic, again, Carrie sent me two beautiful articles on the subject, the topic about new every morning. So I don't know, Tom, if this is a good time for that or not. But
oh, it was perfect. I did want to read something I found on that, but if you want to go ahead, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Well, this one is called, because I guess it meant so much to me because, sometimes we get told, well, we do a lot of the same things over, but not so. Everything is fresh and new every morning. If it is in our heart, we have to work to make it that way. But this one is called The Eternal Mercy by Blanche Hersey Hogue. In the Lamentations of Jeremiah, God's mercies are recalled, and it is written of them, they are new every morning, tender and clear, like the early shining of the morning dew. The loving kindness of the Lord springs anew with each awakening in that heart which turns to him for all that the day may bring forth. A new day has such wondrous possibilities. It holds such untried opportunities for knowing and being and doing all that is good. It enfolds so many unstained hours in which to correct yesterday's mistakes and to profit by yesterday's lessons, that the psalmist and prophet and poet have found in it a beautiful type of the renewal of all that is beautiful and true. As the new morning follows each night, so renewed consecration and endeavor may follow every season of sorrow, oppression, or failure. And no experience is so severe but that its night passes and its morning breaks, whensoever thought turns without reservation to God for deliverance and enlightenment. I think that is so beautiful. And then this one, New Every Morning by Helen Elizabeth Janik. New every morning. To a child, every morning is new. He greets the sunshine with joy and goes into rapture over the birds, the butterflies, and the flowers. His pure consciousness sees good everywhere, and to him, good is always new. And this is why we're told we have to become like a little child.
Yeah.
On page 591 of the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, our leader, Mary Baker Eddy, defines morning as follows: light, symbol of truth, revelation, and progress. Our study and understanding of Christian Science are closely associated with revelation and progress. In studying the lesson sermons, we must take care to be alert so that this study may not become mechanical. All that is read in the Bible and in our textbook comes to us as a revelation, but certain passages may in due course become so familiar to us that upon merely reading them, we may assume that we have grasped all they contain. But his compassions are new every morning. True spiritual joy can never grow stale. It is as the morning dew, causing flowers and grass to sparkle and glitter by the reflection of the sun's rays. It is filled with spiritual joy. We take up our books daily and know that every sentence contains the answer to some question and the solution to some problem. We shall perceive with growing interest and wonder that inexhaustible treasures are waiting to be discovered and garnered. Then we shall experience what our leader indicates on page 66 of Science and Health. Each successive stage of experience unfolds new views of divine goodness and love. The Apostle Paul declared, "All things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." And again, so beautiful. And we were really taught here every day when you read the lesson, it should always be fresh and new. Stir yourself. It's never the same old, same old. It's always new and answers to every problem. But we have to stir ourselves to see it and be grateful as a little child. All the beauty of the universe is ours every morning. So thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Tom, for this topic. Certainly this time of year, springtime, is one thought of renewal and beauty. And after the long winter, we have the beauty of the springtime. So that's it, Tom.
Okay. Well, how awesome is it that we can find a text in the Old Testament to help us understand something in the New Testament? So, this is from Gill's exposition of the entire Bible. Now, I get this from Bible Hub. I encourage everybody to take a look at that if you want to look up a particular text. It's got a lot of information to kind of help you understand that. So Gill's exposition says, "They are new every morning, ... That is, the tender mercies or compassions of God are, which prove that they fail not. There are instances of them every day, not only in a temporal, but in a spiritual sense. They are ever new, always fresh and vigorous, constant and perpetual. Such are the love, grace, and mercy of God, though of old, yet daily renewed in the manifestations thereof, and which make a morning of spiritual light, joy, and comfort. And whenever it is morning with the saints, they have new discoveries of the love of God to them. And these indeed are a bright morning to them, a morning without clouds."
It's beautiful. Thank you.
This is
Yeah.
such sacred teaching.
It is. I know. Sure, we put this all up on our website.
Yeah.
Just always what we need at the time to keep us inspired.
I remember
One
Mr.
thing
Evans told us once, if you get up the next day and you're thinking you're doing the same thing you did yesterday, that's not so. You never did it today yet, so it's not the same.
one thing I'm trying to do is look to Jesus and Mary Baker Eddy as the example of how to live what they taught, because what they taught came from how they lived. And so the further we get away as far as time is concerned, we tend to forget to go back to the ultimate example. And so Mary Baker Eddy was constantly going to the textbook that she wrote. Now we know that she's not the author. She's even said she's not the author. We know it was all God speaking through her. But if she had to go back to it and insisted everybody go back, she had to set the example, and she was always going back to the textbook. And so that in itself, for me, is okay. If she is doing it, then that's, I don't need any more of a reason than that.
Thank you.
Right. And the other good example from that is that you and I are not independent authors of anything.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we should have no pride of authorship in anything.
That's it. So
Thank God for the good that we are given each day.
But the good is sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a lot of good being given, but if we are not prepared to receive it, it's there and that it's not being used. So I feel this one, oh man, what is good? And what does the Lord require of thee, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God? That's my cut.
Thank
For
you.
me, it seems like unless we, prepare in our own hearts to receive this good continuously being given, what good is it to us all?
And that's why I greatly appreciate those of you, and I do get notes and things where you're saying how you're using it and how much all of this means. And it's good for you too to be expressing that gratitude. As I don't like to go on about people giving thumbs up or making comments, but why not? It's such a little thing to do to show that it touched you in some way, and you are using it. And the more gratitude you express, because frankly, Wednesday was a slow night, the more gratitude you express, the more you're going to feel, the more joy you'll feel in your heart. That's how it works. And when you hold back and just come to listen or take, then you don't get as much. That's just the way it is. So give and be grateful and express that gratitude. One round of expression. I was very grateful last week. Someone called me who lives in the Boston area. They'd gone to the Longyear Museum, and she felt so inspired to go there and so inspired to tell me what happened. And she said, when she got there, she I guess made the mistake of letting them know she was from Plainfield. And of course, that didn't go over real well. But she said that the atmosphere there was so heavy and constrictive, and that it made her so grateful for Plainfield. And she said, don't ever stop what you're doing, because nothing is happening out there. We have to keep going with this. We must never let it get tiresome or say we're not getting anything from it. We've got to renew ourselves. That's why this Bible study is such an important one. And so we keep going. It was very encouraging. It was the right message at the right time, because she just saw it so clearly. She said it was like, wow. And this isn't to be critical of anybody or anything, but it is to encourage us to keep going with joy and love in our hearts And every time we get together like this, which is different than when you're in your own rooms by yourself, but when we're together, when two or three are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst. And it helps promote this science and give it out to the world. And we must keep that in our heart with joy and fervency, because it is the most important thing that's going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. To go along with that, if I may, the rest of that are part of the our being, that God is our portion. And because of this being made new every day, we are, the Lord is good unto them that wait for him, and to the soul that seeketh him. So then that's the next step. We keep at it, like you said, and we seek and we go and we work and we pray and we watch.
Thank you. And we do it because we love God, not for any other reason, not for person or not for anything, but because we love God and Mrs. Eddy and Christ Jesus and all that they gave before us.
Well, and that gets back to something that Florence mentioned. And that's, how do we prepare our heart to receive all this good? Well, we prepare our heart by obeying the first two commandments, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love God. You love the truth. You love life. You seek the truth with all your heart. And then you love your neighbor as yourself. If you start each day with a love for mankind, instead of thinking about all the problems and getting bogged down with them, think outward. What can I do for someone, for my neighbor today? There are opportunities around us every day, if we will see them, to help somebody. And if we will be receptive to that, God will give us what is needed to do that. And that is why we receive the good. We receive the good to help others. And we receive it for no other reason.
And that was, Lenny's readings Wednesday, the preparation of the heart was what we talked about on Sunday as well. Yes, to prepare yourself to receive this. And again, I find it so significant. The very beginning, preface of prose works, the very first page, to preserve a long course of years, still in uniform, amid the uniform darkness of storm and cloud and tempest, requires strength from above, deep draughts from the fount of divine love. Mary Baker Eddy. And that's how she did it. She deep drafts from divine love. Through all that she went through, all the opposition, all the naysayers, she kept going with joy in her heart. And what an example.
The light.
If you are being inspired anew every morning just by maybe reading the Word of God or listening to it, which is the purpose of it. If not, we could have dropped the Bible years ago, but we read it because we get inspired every day, and the science and health. And that means you are getting blessed if you are feeling that way. And even reading the lesson during the week, and you pretty much think you understand what the lesson is talking about. But when you hear somebody read on Sunday, you listen to the person reading on Sunday, it felt like something you haven't heard or read. But you've been reading all week. But why did it feel so new to you? Because you're getting inspired from it. I listen to the musicians every Sunday when they sing. Some of the songs I have heard some of them like a million times, but every time I listen to them, it felt new to me. I take Bruce and Faith all the time, showing my gratitude to them because I'm getting blessed by it. And that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. That's it. Someone wrote, I read it on Wednesday night, who said, and it was the person reading the lesson for the week, that they heard things they never heard before, just the way she read, the way her heart was in it. And so it is. So that's why we keep that. Yeah. I remember Charles Stanley once saying, I was so impressed with that because I was trying to come up with a new idea for a lesson or something. And he said, every morning the sunrise is different. Every morning it's never the same. I thought, wow, that's right. It is. It's always different. And it is always different. New and beautiful.
And if you're not getting inspired, if you're not getting inspired by these things, means something is lacking in you. It's not about
Thank you.
God or something. Just
Thank you. It's not about anything but something lacking in you. You're dull to it. So that's why I say rouse yourself, stir yourself. So this is a wonderful topic, Thomas.
And prepare the heart.
Prepare the heart to receive every morning.
It reminds me of the article "Meet the Claim of Advancing Age" by Gilbert Carpenter, and he says, by living on a diet of self, you slowly but surely deteriorate into a dried up, uninteresting character.
Okay, so our readings today for the Bible study are John chapter 20, verses 30 and 31, John chapter 21, verses 1 to 14, and Acts 1, verse 3. So we're talking about the breakfast that Jesus had by the Sea of Tiberias. So what is the Sea of Tiberias, and what other names are there for the Sea of Tiberias?
Well, I thought that was a really interesting question. I thought I knew some of the answers, but I didn't. Turns out the Sea of Tiberias is a really large freshwater expanse in the Jordan River Valley, 60 miles north of Jerusalem. And some other names for that expanse of water. In the Old Testament, it was called the Sea of Shimereth or Shimeroth. And then later, it was also called the Sea of Galilee. That's the one they kind of alternate between the two when they're talking about Jesus. But by the first century, it became known as the Lake of Gennesaret or the Sea of Gennesaret. And so I learned a lot from that question. Thank you so much.
Actually, John was the only one who referred to the Sea of Galilee as the Sea of Tiberias. He was the only one that, in my research, he was the only one that used that term. But it was the center for, or around that area was the center for so many of Jesus's demonstrations. And that area of Capernaum was close by. I mean, he walked on the water on the Sea of Galilee. It's where he's right, very close by, fed the 5,000. He calmed the storm. That was on the Sea of Galilee. Sermon on the Mount was given in the same area. Raised Jairus' daughter. I mean, most of his demonstrations were around that area. The Sea of Galilee was the center. It's a freshwater lake. It's where actually they get the fresh water. Jerusalem gets fresh water. It's from the Sea of Galilee. And anyway, that's.
It's below sea level too, right?
So you talk,
Yeah.
Karen. Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
So yes, as you said about the Mount of Beatitudes and so forth, so a lot of Jesus' ministry was around the Sea of Galilee, all over the place, right? Mm-hmm. And Tiberias the name comes from the city Tiberias, which is on the Sea of Galilee, which is named after the Roman Emperor Tiberius.
It reminds me of present day. We had the Gulf of Mexico, now we have the Gulf of America. We're often dedicating streets to somebody and the name changes, but the place is the same.
Yeah.
Well, I heard they're changing it to the Gulf of Texas because a lot of it's on the coast of Texas. You know how Texas is.
Whatever. We know.
I'm sorry, that was a joke.
Have you been to the Sea of Galilee, Tom?
Have I been to Sea of Galilee? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I was at the Mount Beatitudes and all over there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's still called a sea. I mean, it should be called a lake.
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty big. I don't know.
But the other thing, that was in New Jersey. It would be full of houses and motorboats, and that place is just so quiet. I mean, what do they do? They just go fishing? Are there houses all around it, or is it?
Well, I don't have an answer for this, but I did note that there didn't seem to be a lot of boating activity on the lake, as you might think of typically. And it seemed kind of windy. So I don't know how to explain that, but that was my observation. I thought, gee, there doesn't seem to be a lot of boating activity out there.
No.
And it is kind of windy.
Well, and they did
And
say
it is a fishing. Fishing is a major thing that's done on the. Yes, fishing is a big part of the industry there.
and all their fresh water, and also the storms come up very quickly there. So I guess it could, as we read in the Bible, it could be dangerous if you're not careful. So
that's where the multitude of fish was caught. So
yeah,
yeah,
that amazing scene in The Chosen of that.
Also, they call it the Yom Kinneret. That's what the Israelites know it as to be. Yom in the Hebrew means lake, and in the Hebrew language, sea and lake are the same in the language. That's why.
Oh, okay.
It comes like that, and Kinneret means heart because it's shaped like a heart.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was fascinating.
Thank you.
That explains part of it. All right.
I read.
Okay, so question 2.
Was going to say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Was someone going to say anything? Go ahead.
Well, I read that because the lake was in the Sea of Galilee was in this deep trough, and to the east and the west, the mountains rose to a height of 2,000 feet, so that's what made the rushing winds and made it so dangerous at some times. And it said that occasionally outbursts break out over the lake in which a boat could hardly live, so that a lot of the boaters stayed near the shore unless it was very calm, and they didn't have to run into that. And they said that a boat could hardly survive it.
Huh. Thank you. All that's interesting.
Okay, so moving on to question 2. Why did Jesus not constantly remain with the disciples during the 40 days after the resurrection? So it's in Acts chapter 1, verse 3, where it tells us that he was present for 40 days after the resurrection. And then, of course, in our section on John chapter 21, it says this was the third time that Jesus showed himself to the disciples. So this indicates that Jesus was not constantly with the disciples. So this is probably a speculative question, but I thought it was kind of interesting why he wasn't with the disciples constantly for 40 days.
Well, I loved this question. I mean, I this whole Bible study, because I never thought of these things before. Just sort of read the story, but there was these 40 days rather than the 3 years prior to his being with them a lot of the time, constantly. But this 40 days was preparing them for what they were about to do. And it's they were going to be going out and spreading the gospel now without him. And so he couldn't constantly be with them. He was preparing them to not have him around. And it was very, let's see, so much I found out about this question. But he said that, he said on the cross that his work was finished. That portion of his job was done, to getting the disciples, having his disciples and teaching them and having them. But this was a different, what he was preparing them for was now to minister without him, and to encourage them. They were frightened. They were scared. They didn't know what had happened. They thought he'd never see him again. And so he was giving them comfort in their sorrow and thinking that they had, and giving them courage to face what they were going to face. He was talking about the scriptures. He taught them with the scriptures again, his whole purpose, how he came. It was going over the scriptures with them rather than the, I sort of thought of it this morning too, like Moses, who was not going to be with them anymore and had to send the children of Israel off without him. And what he did was go over the 10 Commandments, go over what he taught them. He even said, what did he say? Now therefore go. Well, this is also what he was told to say to the Pharaoh, but is also meaningful in this. Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. So I'm sure Jesus was, this was a lot of what was done in these 40 days, and most of it was for the disciples. So anyway, I just found it really interesting. I'm glad I was able to, you brought this out so we could look into this a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you.
A kind of intuitive thought I had about that is he has his foot here and there. So he's giving them what they need to go and do what they do. He's also preparing himself for the ascension.
Thank you.
Yeah, also the truth is that he never actually left. I think both accounts were covered. Like he said, I will be with you always, even to the end of time. As he is with us, even at this moment. He himself said that we are 2 or more gathered in my name, I'm in their midst. But the difference here is that the human Jesus that were with them for 30 years has been transformed. Original nature of Jesus Christ, who he was from the beginning of the world. Even before that, he just was appearing so that they would know. Try to let them know, because their faith hasn't been that strong at that time. To let them know, I'm here with you. Even when they can't see him, he was there with them.
Yeah.
But he keeps showing up every now and then. Remember the case when Abraham, Moses, and Elijah appeared to them.
Mm-hmm. The transfiguration.
Yeah. Thank you, letting them know we are always here. And they just show to them to reaffirm that to them as he is with us today. He never left.
It's a beautiful thing.
One thing came. Go
ahead, Bruce.
One thing came to my mind was Mrs. Eddy's statement in Science and Health: to those leaning on the sustaining infinite, today is big with blessings. So the disciples, when Jesus was no longer there in person, what did they do? They went out fishing. But like Benjamin said, the Spirit of the Christ is always a present reality, always. And if you're leaning on that, you'll find divine blessings. Not only that, you'll find your purpose and you'll fulfill it according to God's glory instead of, oh, I don't have a physical Jesus to lean on or turn to and resolve all my questions and answer these things, and reduce it to a personal level. It's kept on the divine level, the sustaining infinite, and therefore goes forward on that basis.
Yeah. He was manifesting the risen Christ, and as the risen Christ, he was not with them as he was before the 3 years that he was humanly with them as well. This is after the resurrection. Now he is the risen Christ. So they are getting used to the idea of his presence no matter what. So he couldn't be with them all the time, constantly like he was before.
Yeah.
And also they were facing, they were going to face death. And so he was reassuring them that your life can't be taken away from you. They can't touch your life. Look, I'm here. I'm eating, drinking, with you. So none of what you're going to face can take your real life away from you. And so they were going to be going into some dangerous, but they were going to be successful. And no matter what happens to them, they can't touch their life.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's also a good argument for going over things many times, and that is throughout the Bible, because the human mind forgets. Right. How many times have you said you're going to do something, and then an hour later you don't remember what that was? The human mind forgets, so we do need to go over. I'm always impressed in The Chosen where they're, constantly going over. The Jewish people went over and over the commandments, the laws, the rules, the everything, so it would be burning in their heart. Not that so that it would get boring, but that it would be burning in their heart, and they would keep it fresh and alive in their thought. Yeah. And very important. Charles Stanley said in a sermon, he said you should always go over things several times. Otherwise, when people leave, they won't remember what you said. Oh, my. So
Jensen says the same thing, repetition.
Yeah.
Repetition.
Repetition. Right. Thank you. And Jesus, I'm not sure who spoke, but said, yes, he was preparing himself for his ascension as well as instructing his disciples. And so I'm sure he spent long periods of time, as he always did, in deep prayer. They said he would, go to the desert or the mountain places and then show up again and teach. And
we don't know for sure who else he met with and talked to before his ascension.
Yeah.
We don't have but there may have been other people that he needed to see and talk to and encourage.
It talks about that in Jesus, that he went up to the northern part of Galilee and saw 500. I didn't know that. Saw 500 people who called themselves disciples. Now, a lot of them apparently also in here that a lot of them started to doubt. So he visited them. So I thought that was.
Well, I would think that that's something that he would do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is a book that was recommended by Mrs. Eddy. She read it. The Journeys of Jesus.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
It is.
Something another kind of an intuitive thing. And I thought about this since I was very little, and no one ever talks about it. That when Jesus ascended, others ascended with him, and he may have also been preparing them.
Yeah, I heard that
Not quite sure what that was.
Some-
But I think
something
here relates to personal dependence. And that was something that Jesus had to release them from. And Mrs. Eddy had the same experience in her early days when the movement was starting to grow and starting to really expand. There was a lot of personal dependence on her. And it was a terrible burden for her and for the others. And as a result of that, she had to close the college, stop the Christian Science Association, and dissolve the church organization as it existed at that time, and then to reestablish everything on the basis of principle instead of people. And she always had to take people to the principle of her teaching instead of coming to her pretty personal issues that she had to resolve. And she had to put an end to all of that. You know, you have the truth, you have the capacity to think. And she says in her book, the time for thinkers has come, not for blind followers, for thinkers. So that's a requirement that's actually put on all of us. And we have a example of Jesus, a marvelous leader, and Mary Baker Eddy for just doing just that.
Yeah. At times
something
he
I'd like.
gives in specific instructions. Do not think of me, personal me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's killer, that personal sense.
Something I'd like to add, if I can. He was teaching them to use their spiritual sense. And one of the ways that they needed to do that was to recognize him when he showed up. Because it states in a couple of different places where people did not recognize him after he was risen. And their thought had to rise in order to recognize him. The walk to Emmaus, and with Mary when he first, she thought he was the gardener, and the breakfast that we're talking about in this Bible study, they didn't immediately recognize him, but they knew that it was the Christ. And I think it was, I'm not sure which disciple, whether it was James or John, that said, "It's the Lord."
Yeah, it was John.
Thank you. Yeah, that said, "It's the Lord." And so I think this was another way, and he had to kind of keep proving that he was risen in a sense. But what he was doing was teaching them to use their spiritual sense to see him.
Do you think also their belief in death was still so strong that they couldn't conceive of him being there? And that's what he was doing, was breaking that mesmerism of the actuality of death. And then they could see.
Yeah, that's part of it too.
One thing I read in Matthew, I never read it before. I don't think I've ever read it before, but based on what somebody just said, at the very end in Matthew 27, where it says, Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, so this is when he's on the cross, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent, and the graves were opened. And many bodies of the saints which slept arose and came out of the graves after his resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. So maybe Jesus was also at that time seeing them or appearing to them. It just now came to thought. So I've never read that until just recently, and I thought, whoa, that was
Yeah, we don't have that in the lesson.
Yeah. No, I mean, a lot of interesting things happened that defied so-called material law, right?
Yeah.
And why not? And don't have accounts that don't get a lot of publicity, but don't we have accounts of people to whom Jesus appeared, when they were in prison or when they were whatever, Jesus appeared to them, or and encourage them to embrace Christianity. You have accounts, and there is an account somewhere. I don't remember what book it's in, where one of Mrs. Eddy's household was trying to reach her, and Mrs. Eddy's door was closed, and Mrs. Eddy told her afterwards that she kept her door closed because she was having a conversation with Jesus.
Yes.
Oh.
Not to interrupt her.
Wow.
And they couldn't resist but to interrupt her.
So there have been a lot of accounts since then, Jesus appearing to people.
Yeah, and even more recently, people in prison, people can Muslim or whatever to Christianity. So
we shouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, let's go back to his promise. Always.
His promise.
Also,
one important quote. Go ahead.
Oh, lesson says that Jesus says, "You are in my house, and I'm in yours." So He'll always be in our consciousness, and we in His. And it says that He will be coming and going. So there's no reason to believe that He doesn't come to individuals and goes. Why not?
Why not?
I think one of the most important quotes that Jesus said was, "Because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed." And Spurgeon, in my commentary that I have of his, the cream of blessing belongs to those who have not seen and yet have believed. So the disciples were going to be going out to those who never experienced any of this, and yet were going to believe in spite of that.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, look at Paul. He didn't actually meet
No.
He wasn't a disciple.
No, he wasn't a disciple.
I think Jesus appeared to him too on the way to Damascus.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking maybe it comes to different people in different ways. Like if your consciousness is prepared to receive the Christ message, then you receive it. But if it's not, and it maybe slightly is, maybe you receive it in a more personal way of seeing Jesus.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
It comes to us in a way that will reach us.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way truth works.
If our heart is prepared to receive it.
But the heart must be prepared.
Yeah.
Receive it. Because it can be standing right there and you don't realize it.
And if our heart is not prepared to receive it, it will shock us in some way to help us prepare our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
You can't see him if you're
Two left.
full of faith.
We have time for Tom.
Tom, go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm just awestruck with the discussion that went on with this question. Like I said, I didn't quite know what the answer was, but it certainly generated a lot of interest and a lot of good information, a lot of good points. So we have two more questions left, and we're up at the hour. Maybe we pick one, but does anybody have a preference on casting the net on the right side or Jesus preparing the breakfast?
Well, I just want to say I did find an article by William McCracken called "Toiled All Night," which is very, very good. And I'll just read what it says. "Toiling all night in vain is the human method, but letting down the net in obedience to God's command encloses a great multitude of fishes. Ecclesiastical ingenuity in its conceit has planned to further the progress of Christianity by the human method, only to find that the poor in spirit, using the divine method, inherit the kingdom and see God. The simple, single-minded, poor in material belief, but rich in spiritual perception, show the faith of the mustard seed and learn by obedience to remove mountains. Fears tall as towers and acting in human consciousness as walled obstructions to spiritual progress have vanished in the night with the dawning light of true understanding. This is a wonderful article. I don't know whether you got that from Carrie, whether you got it from Carrie also, Mary, but
I did not.
It's a wonderful article.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. We'll post that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, there are a lot of lessons that could be gotten out of this, but I think one of the key lessons is the lesson of obedience.
Yeah.
Recognize. Well,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, to be able to recognize the highest Christly thought at the time, certainly Jesus at the time, certainly Mary Baker Eddy in her time, to recognize the highest Christly thought and then be willing to obey it is so essential. And there were disciples and quasi disciples of Jesus who didn't obey him. And look what, some of them didn't turn out so well. And there were students taught by Mrs. Eddy, some who obeyed her and prospered, and many who didn't obey her, and that didn't turn out so well for them. And I think, even her own household, her own trustees of the church, did they obey the manual?
No.
Some of them did not. And look what happened as a result of that disobedience.
Yeah.
I also like the what Proverbs 3 tells us, really, if we trust in the Lord with all our heart and we don't lean on our own understanding, in all thy ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. So that's all telling us to always obey, do it with God. Greater works than these shall he do. If we do what he says we should do. And that, I think it's correct what he said about the two commandments. Have the Lord thy God, have no other God but him first, and then love your neighbor. So if we're doing his will, sure, we will depend on him. We will do everything with God, and then we are led correctly what we are supposed to do.
Thank you.
So, going back to what you said about obedience, I think that's the fulfillment of all God's law, being obedient to God. Remember the story of Samuel and the Saul. When Saul thought, I can't get away by just killing 1,000 cows, sacrificing. And Samuel was very furious at him, telling him obedience is better than sacrifice. That is most important.
And I guess in fishing, you are to cast your net on the left side. The right side has a steering wheel, and the right side, a lot of stuff's going on, so it can get the nets all tangled up. So it didn't make sense for the fishermen to do what Jesus was telling them to do, and they thought they were the authority, and they knew, no, you're supposed to cast on the left side. And so it required giving up their former beliefs and thinking what they knew, to just humbly do as the Christ asked them. And when they did, they reaped wonderful benefits. So there are a lot of lessons to that story. Absolutely. Thank you, Tom.
God direct.
Yeah. Sometimes we think we know how to do something and we don't, our minds are closed to maybe what, the Proverbs 3 is telling us not to lean unto our own understanding.
Carpenter has a lot about the disciples and the footsteps, and he uses them in the lessons they learn. But one of the interesting things was with the breakfast, he talks about that Jesus proves that mind supplied the food and that it was a lesson. I mean, that was what was happened with the 5,000, but he proved again, not having anything there, he produced the food.
Yeah.
Again.
And mind feeds you.
The other thing I got from the breakfast was, can we please gather together and uphold each other with Christly love?
Yes.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, thank you for that. So I wanted to just make a comment. I think it's overall, but also partly question too, about preparing the disciples not to be so dependent on him, right? You know, in the Boston church, it's so controlling that I think a lot of Christian Scientists, at least I experience this, that you become kind of fearful and meek and weak, you know? And that's not what a Christian Scientist should be. So here at Plainfield Church, you know, we need to learn to be tough, to stand on our own 2 feet, to be like the disciples, ready to go out and do their own ministry. But the sense of toughness that we need to have, and it's for those who have spent years in the Boston church, it may take a while to throw that off about being weak and meek and subservient, and learning how to be tough in a good way.
Yeah, thank you. That's right. Independent. Thank you. Yeah, we can quickly do the last one, I guess.
Okay, so, well, we did get a partial answer on that. Well, maybe a perfect answer. But what was Jesus demonstrating by preparing a breakfast for the disciples?
Well, it shows the abundance of good that God has for those who minister to others. The power of divine love. Jesus' love was totally divine. There was nothing selfish about anything that he ever did or said. He was doing for others, and God provided what they needed through him. And God will provide through us whatever those we are helping need, if it is truly unselfish, unselfish.
Yeah, I think that's it. It was being unselfish, because if Jesus was going to ascend and not be with them, well, why didn't the disciples honor him and make breakfast for him? He was kind of showing them the way of doing for others.
Yes, thank you. That, and then that's followed by feed my sheep. It's his 2 last lessons are to help others, not to be self-satisfied and expect everyone to wait on you.
Go out fishing for yourself.
Yeah, go fishing for yourself. All of that. I mean, huge lessons before he left.
Well, the Lord's Prayer says, "Give us this day our daily bread." So he was demonstrating that they will have everything they need at every moment if they trust him and look to the Christ. They will have what they need every moment.
Yes,
he is the bread of life. He referred to himself as the bread. So he was showing that. That said, he wished after the resurrection as well as before it to set himself forth as the bread of life, or the spiritual food of mankind, and he did so.
Yeah. Give us grace for today. feed the famished affection.
Famished affections.
Yes, it's not give me all my bread for today, God. It's what can I give me the grace so I can help others, which I find also extremely significant in Mrs. Eddy's spiritual interpretation of that.
Yeah.
Because
I love what. Oh, I'm sorry.
I want, I want my bread for the day. I always aimed it at myself. Took me a while before that dawned on me. Go ahead.
I was going to say I love what Henry Drummond says about when you do for others, then you have to turn around and sort of forget that you did. You know, and I think that just points to knowing that all is one. And so, you know, when you're doing for others, you're just doing for that one, and you are that one doing for that one, I guess. And also that you're not an owner, and so you're just giving what God has provided.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
I think it was also. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Well, I was just going to say that it's symbolic that the net, when they first went out fishing, when they hadn't even met Jesus yet, but when they first met him, they were out fishing, and they got all this fish, and yet the net broke. This time, it did not break, and that was significant. Whereas the first miraculous draft, the net was breaking through the weight of it. It contained expressive of the difficulty with which, after they had caught men, they would be able to retain or keep them from escaping back into the world. While here, for all they were so many, it's referring to the fish, yet as not the net broken, are we not reminded of such sayings as these? I give unto my sheep eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any pluck them out of my hand.
Thank you.
One last thing is, even though Jesus was going to ascend, he still was very sensitive to his disciples, and he was able to eat with them, which told me that as we grow, we need to be receptive and connected to those that are not yet as where we are, and we can help them and relate.
Thank you. Yeah.
Love thy neighbor as thyself.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't that why we're all here anyway?
It's just proof that our oneness with God is. That's exactly what it proves.
Yeah. That's what our mission is all about, not just to keep the truth to us, ourselves, but to spread to all corners of the world and make sure it blesses all mankind.
Thank you.
Because if we keep it to ourselves, we're just Pharisees.
Yeah. Good.
It's nice having a purpose, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you, Tom.
Yeah, Tom, it was
Thank
good.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Good Easter lesson.
Oh, thank you, everybody, for
Thank you, Tom.
great
Tom.
discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.